Hello, my friends, and welcome back to another exploration of all of the weapon stories in NieR Automata. We finished up the small swords last time with Cypress Stick, and we got, just through these four. I think I maybe talked a little bit too long on this one. But let's go ahead and move on. Iron Will. The sword's blade, dulled by years of idleness, was, as its name implied, a mere iron hunk. Its blood-drenched youth was little more than a series of rusted memories, which grated against its pock-marked steel. I feel like this is a Berserk reference. A hunk of iron so large it can hardly be called a sword. Who could wield this... Who could wield this hunk of iron now that its edge was gone? Who might love it when all it could do was bash dully against a foe instead of cutting through flesh and bone? Who would devote themselves to such insanity? The sword sighed softly, pleased to finally be at rest, but before it could peacefully crumble into dust, a group of power-hungry fools took it up and denied its reverie anew. Red rust was the weapon's tears. The blood, fat, and muscles it tore through was proof of its curse. Now let it hew bone once more. Let it ravage flesh. Let it do all this and more as atonement for its sins. Okay. So I suppose this is a little odd just because it's describing the crumpling into dust, allowing it to fade and disappear, to be reverie, to be a celebration, and denying that celebration is the far more active rusting, as it is used as a weapon again. I don't know, I really feel like this is a Berserk reference, but I actually haven't gotten into Berserk at all myself, so I can't confirm or deny that. I guess it's trying to say that once again, sort of similar to that one story that we saw earlier on with the was it with the poet? I can't remember. No, it was with the Yorha, the second Yorha sword, where just a message about letting cruelty go, letting it fade away rather than trying to pursue it, trying to actively create or revel in those cruel, destructive, and harmful actions, which people are so wont to do once they fall into that mode of warfare, that mode of violence. And I guess it's sort of saying that, we almost had a peaceful and simple ending of just some material going back to the earth, going back to the cycle, but that was taken away. The natural process of decay and probably rebirth after that was denied by this violent act to how violence forces a destructive impulse to keep recreating itself in its own cycle. But let's go with the Fang of the twins here. Twin souls were sacrificed to twin gods and bound to an unbreakable dual-bladed axe. This axe that we're looking at is apparently single-bladed. The two blades would never part. They would be together for the rest of... whenever nicked or damaged, it would instantly repair itself. The two blades would never part. They would be together for the rest of time. The souls in the blade yearned to be as one, to grow old as one, to fall in love as one. It is why we both love the same person. I am myself, I am myself. Look at me, look at me. Give me love, give me love. Stop copying me, I'm not. We are together, we are one. Life or death, even if we kill our foes, even if we kill each other, our two bodies will be as one for all time. Someone separate us. Oh God, please, someone help. I'm gonna guess that's the word me. Someone help me. And I guess that last sentence being cut off is one half of the weapon's soul causing some kind of violent act against another, or maybe both did it simultaneously because the two were the same person. But obviously they were successful because the Fang of the twins is a one-bladed axe, not a two-bladed axe. I would say that if I can get any kind of meaning out of this, I mean, it might be connected to Aristophanes' story of the Circle people in the Plato's Symposium, just because Aristophanes did describe how that the combination of the two different kinds of people in the three forms of the men, the women, and the women were the result of the power of the god Eros, and how that power was a threat to the gods. And since this weapon is described as an offering unto gods, it would make sense that the mythical entity of gods would make this joint existence to be something very chaotic, very painful, to try to keep it occupied, to keep the power away. But I guess it's sort of a representation of how love, of how joining together can be, I mean, it's a very powerful force, and that force can either manifest in good ways, like was intended, that the axe would be able to support itself, repair itself, and actually yearn for that togetherness. Using the word yearned there really makes me think that this is Aristophanes. But I would say, the motivation that people get from love, the kinds of things that people can do in its name, definitely gives a potential for atrocity, gives a potential for violence as well. And I think a lot of this game follows that theme, especially since for the androids in Yorha, the feeling of love and the feeling of wanting to cause harm are essentially one and the same. They're aroused by combat, not by what we would think of as emotional connection. But anyway, let's move on to Beast Lord. Nope, not details. Story. Once upon a time, there were 3 princesses. This is a continuation of the Middle Princess story that had that taxidermied herself. The eldest princess was thought by all to be the most brilliant woman in the kingdom, and she soon sat upon the throne of her homeland as their queen. I'm going to assume they mean brilliant as in smart, not shiny. The new queen raised a mighty army to afford the endeavor she taxed her people, and in turn, they were given jobs in new factories created to support the war effort. People worked and money flowed. As the army grew strong, the demand for factories grew with it, and then the cycle repeated. More work, more money, more work, more money. The queen's plan proceeded as she had envisioned it. To further strengthen the kingdom, we were converted to machines to enhance our output in factories and the military. Our queen, in turn, became a control system that rules us to this day. So in this, I think the story is a little divergent from the themes of the main game, just because the main game does a lot to create an equivalency between the human experience, the android experience, and the machine experience, at least in terms of an internal, emotional, rational understanding, even if, having to deal with programming and a lot of really quick, repetitive cycles as a result of that. But in this one, I think we're actually getting into a little bit of social economic theory because it's pretty well established that people see war, or at least economies see war, as being very profitable. Wartime may actually, it's very chaotic. It creates a lot of risk and a lot of unknown factors. But for people in the war industry, for people in the basic materials industry, such as iron and steel, it's a very profitable time. But more recently, these theories have been coming under attack. Whereas war was previously thought to be enabling the creation of capital, and war was considered to be what got us out of both the economic depression that resulted after the Roaring '20s and the economic depression that followed World War I. It's also been theorized that war, in taking up so much resource, in taking up so much of a country's capital and expending it in war, that it's not actually creating real capital. It's not creating wealth that persists, that people can actually use. And should war ever come to an end, which it always eventually does, people get burned out on constant conflict eventually. Even if the war doesn't have a grand ending, it will, wars tend to also wane slowly if it doesn't actually have a quote-unquote victory. When the result is a few years after the war, there's inevitably another depression. And depressions are part of standard economic cycles, but we could say that, war might actually be an accelerating cause in that. It creates an artificial bubble where there is no bubble that is actually being valued by the actors in the economy. And so once the war is over and the need disappears, the bubble pops and a depression is the result. And so in terms of war as it relates to economic theory, I would say that it's getting closer to being accepted as the predominant theory that war doesn't actually create any real capital, that it's actually just wasted capital that ultimately sets up another depression, another time of relative poverty. And this is demonstrated here, that the loss of, the loss of humanity being converted into machines to keep the war effort continuously going forever, which is essentially the setting of the NieR Automata game that we're looking at, as the androids are in a perpetual war with machines, with a perpetual proxy war, when both the aliens and the humans who are fighting this war have completely gone extinct, that it doesn't actually create any value. It doesn't help anyone to keep this going, but they keep it going anyway so as to stave off the realization that it was empty and meaningless in the first place. That realization that comes with the inability to act, the inability to pursue your own goals and to exercise freedom when you fall into a period of mass poverty. And so I guess the result is that even though they turned into a constant war effort machine society, they ended up losing that value anyway, because they could only ever focus on one thing and one thing only. So whether you continue the war or not, the result is you're going to have a period in which all purpose and meaning is lost because you lose your access to the freedom that allows you to pursue that purpose, which is very much in line with existential philosophy, particularly with I really shouldn't blank on a name. Simone de Beauvoir's boyfriend. The guy who's actually connected to as like the main figurehead of existential philosophy. Jean-Paul Sartre. There we go. I can remember basic philosophical historical facts. That's what I do. Well, let's see. We only got through about 3 of them, so I think I'm going to go ahead and end it here. I had surprisingly a lot to say about the twin Fangs, and then that last one is like, it's more sociology, economics, but you know, these things are always tangential to philosophy, just because underlying first principles and assumptions always go into developing what we think is the correct information when forming theories about war, about economics, about society. So it's still related. But if you enjoyed the video, go ahead and do all those YouTube things like comment, hit the like button so that other people can see. It really helps me out. Subscribe if you'd like to see more like this, or check out any of my other analyses that are a little more concise, a little more formal. Thanks for exploring this with me. I don't know, should I ramble a little bit more or actually end the video? I think I should end the video, I guess. So, thank you again, and remember, stay true.